Greetings and salutations, fellow book readers. This is Mark. The book I will review today is The Gentleman in the Parlour. Before we continue, this is personalized limited edition of The Gentleman in the Parlour with a leather cover designed and made by me. At the end of the video, I will tell you a couple of ways of how you can get one for yourself, if you are interested. Now let's get back to the review. The Gentleman in the Parlour, a record of a journey from Rangoon to High Pong, is a travel memoir written by Somerset Maugham and published in 1930. Maugham stems from the great tradition of the English writers and is one of the pioneers of the 20th century British literature, with its gift of keen observation and beautiful English prose. And for me, he's up there with Graham Greene, V.S. Pritchett, and George Orwell. Maugham wrote novels, short stories, and travel memoirs, and many of his works, such as Of Human Bondage and The Razor Edge, were adapted into films. What is The Gentleman in the Parlour about? It is a travelogue of Maugham's trip through Burma, Siam and Indochina. He writes his experiences and insight as he passes through those places in the 1920s, which at that time were under British and French rule, except for Siam, today Thailand, which was independent and served as a buffer zone between the British and the French colonies. The book is travel in the good old days, when the trails were not crowded with groups of loud and annoying tourists, because they were not crowded at all. And often you had to beat your own path. And back then, traveling took effort, and perhaps because of it, the whole experience was more appreciated and left a deeper impact on each traveler. A bit of the plot. The plot is a collection of stories, encounters and observations as Maugham travels on foot, horseback, by boat and car through Southeast Asia. Before he starts his journey, Maugham lets us know that the book is no accident. I took the trip because I wanted to write about it. For him, the book is a break from writing novels, which Maugham admits can be tiresome. He also lets us know that the title of the book was inspired by Hazlitt, who was an early 19th century English essayist and literary critic, and in one of his essays he used the phrase, "the gentleman in the parlour," which probably is what Maugham saw himself as during the travel. Further down, he writes about his reasons and preferences for travel. "I travel because I like to move from place to place. It pleases me to rid off ties, responsibilities and duties. I like the unknown and for people to amuse me for a moment." And he continues, "I travel much, but I am a bad traveler. Good traveler has an element of surprise, but to me it seems obvious that the Burmese wears different clothing than I." Maugham starts his trip in Rangoon, which at the time was the capital of British Burma, after arriving by ship from Ceylon, and then travels to Mandalay by boat and continues on mule to the remote region of Shan State, where he crosses over the mountains into Siam, today's Thailand, and there he travels by car to Bangkok, then by boat to French Indochina, which today are the countries of Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam, where he passes through Phnom Penh and visits Angkor Wat, and next to Saigon, and from there he follows the coast up north to Hanoi and High Pong, where the journey ends. In the book, Maugham describes his travel habits and admits to being a lazy traveler. He loves ease and leisure and doesn't want to be bothered with preparations and details. On the road he meets a Czechoslovak who is his opposite when it comes to travel, and is running around taking notes and accumulating facts, while Mon, as a good old English snob, sits back with a pipe in his hand and makes fun of all the unnecessary effort. During the journey, Mon runs into a variety of individuals who share with him their stories and intimate secrets, as he explains in the following quote. Often, in some lonely pose in the jungle or in a stiff grand house, solitary in the midst of a teeming Chinese city, a man has told me stories about himself that I am sure he had never told to a living soul. I was a stray acquaintance whom he had never seen before and would never see again, a wanderer for a moment through this monotonous life, and some starved impulse led him to lay bare his soul. I have in this way learned more about men in a night than I could if I had known them for 10 years. If you are interested in human nature, this is one of the greatest pleasures of travel. So, among the people Mon meets, there is Masterson, who plans to eventually return to England, and because of it, avoids any serious commitments in the current home, which creates some unpleasantries for him. And an Italian priest living in the jungle who didn't have a cup of coffee in 2 years. And in Hai Pong, he is found by a man who claims to be his acquaintance from the school years. He tells him how he saved for many years just to be able to go back to England, but once back he realized that England has changed more than he did, and in ways that not pleased him. During the journey, Mon stays in temples with monks and with the natives in their villages, and is told local tales, such as one about a reincarnated man who wants his property from the previous life back. He also gives a detailed description of the landscape he is traveling through with its natural and man-made features, and also the local population and their habits and customs. During one of his down moments, he manages to write a fairy tale called Princess September and retells it in the book. Mon also gives us a bit of his political views and ironies about the workings of the British Empire and the process of colonization. For example, the British offered one thing when 100 other things could be as good, and as if the man in whose house you quarter yourself will let you stay just because you said you can run it better than he can. He also compares the French and the British colonial systems. French carry France to their colonies just as English carry England to their colonies, but their treatment of the natives is very different. The English always maintained distance from the natives and saw them as inferior foreign creatures who needed to be ruled, where the French connected with the locals and saw them more as fellow human beings and tried to absorb them into their French family. To sum it up, The Gentleman in the Parlour is a great travel book, perhaps not so much for the facts, since there is some fiction included in the book. After all, Mon was a fiction writer. Also, the order and the timeline is not very precise, which probably is due to the fact that Mon wrote the book almost a decade after the trip, and apparently from memory. Further, there are some intentional omissions, such as the fact that he traveled with his male companion. He was a closet homosexual and probably didn't want to confirm any suspicions. But all that to the side, for me, what makes the book great is the unique writing style, which made Mon one of the most popular writers of his time. And he uses it to retell the stories he heard along the way and to vividly describe the places he passed through. Mon, in spite of not being considered a travel writer, or perhaps because of it, wrote something that I found enjoyable and relaxing to read. Okay, let's talk about the physical book. The book I am holding is a paper bag which I transform into hardcover leather-bound edition. To make the cover, I use grade A naturally tan hide I buy from a tanner in North Spain. It is the same leather Louis Vuitton uses to make his bag, so it is top quality. I do all the processing of the leather myself. First, I designed the cover, which what I did here. I took an image from the 1950s poster made by one of the airlines that don't exist anymore, maybe Pan Am, which advertised travel to Southeast Asia, and I adapted it to make the cover for The Gentleman in the Parlour. If you want to see a more detailed video where I explain how I transform a paper bag into leather-bound hardcover, click on the link in the description. I will make maximum of 100 editions of each title. Each one will be numbered and initialed, and the numbers will go in chronological order from 2 up, since number 1 stays with me. The price will be around $100, so if you would like me to make one for you, you can click below on my email and send me a message. I do not guarantee I will do it, since it will depend on the time I have available, access to leather, and if I can get my hands on the copy of the book. Now, if you're not willing to spend the $100, but you still want the book, what you can do is click below on the PayPal link and donate $3 or more to my channel. And for every 100 donations, I will make a lottery and draw one name. And the winner will receive the book. So, if you are cheap but feel lucky, this might be the way to do it. Also, your donations give me the extra motivation to make the book reviews, and I appreciate them very much, so thank you in advance. One more thing, when you make your donation, remember to include the title of the book you would like to win. The book itself is beautiful. Visually it has very nice texture, it smells great, and the more you handle it, the more beautiful it will become. And it makes a great gift for yourself or somebody who appreciates books. So if you want one, don't snooze or you might lose. Well, that's it, so let's end it here, and until next time, keep your ear close to the ground and read a book. Adios.